Thank you, Millie. Thank you, Robert. That was phenomenal. We can go home now. We've been to church. A woman was walking along a lonely beach, probably away from the maddening crowd of Christmas back home, just to get a quiet place to be. When she saw something strange, it looked like an old lamp, like the ones you would read about in the childhood stories. And she picked it up and she took her beach towel, and it was all crusty, and she was just wiping it off to see if there was anything on it. And when she wiped it off, this genie appeared. Now we're talking 2018, and this genie appeared. The woman was amazed. She said, "I'm ready to give you my 3 wishes." He said, "Lady, due to inflation, constant downsizing, low wages in third world countries, and fierce global competition, I can only grant you 1 wish." Without hesitation, the woman said, "I want peace on earth. I want peace on earth. That's all I want. Peace on earth." She said, "See, I carry this map with me all the time, and these countries are always fighting. And I would just like for once for us to have peace on earth all over the world where we get along with everybody." He says, "Let me see that map." "Lady, these countries have been at war for hundreds and thousands of years. It ain't gonna happen. It's not possible. Can you think of another wish?" She said, "Well, I've been single a long time, and I've really been wanting to meet Mr. Right. Now, I wish for a man who's fun, likes to cook, good looking, good house cleaning skills, gets along well with my family, doesn't watch sports all the time, is faithful, treats me like a queen, and does whatever I want him to do. That's what I wish for, a good mate." The genie said, "Let me see the map." But don't we all wish for peace on earth? I don't know about you, but we get so caught up in what's going on in our lives every day. And when we turn on the news or we listen to the radio or we read the newspaper, we see the same thing. Where is there peace on earth? So this is the second Sunday of Advent. And Advent means the coming. It's preparation for something that's about to happen, the Advent. The season of preparation is believed to have begun in the 4th and 5th centuries in Spain and Gaul, and in the 6th century in Rome. In Unity, we call this the period of preparation for the awakening of the Christ consciousness within us. Not for the coming of Jesus Christ, not for the coming of a person, but the coming of who we are here to be, a rebirth of our true selves. Now, whenever I'm doing a message or I'm doing a lesson for Bible class, I resort to one of Unity's most profound resources. And I just happen to look over there and see the founder and CEO of this resource. It's called truthunity.net. So if you want to know what Unity is all about, that is an excellent source. Mark Hicks, would you please stand up? Thank you for being here today. I didn't know you were going to be in town. But Mark is a licensed Unity teacher, and he started truthunity.net I don't know how many years ago. We use it in our Bible class. We use it in the Wednesday service. I do a lot of research in truthunity.net. Anything you want to know. And most recently, he's been providing the recording. There are recordings on there of Fillmore, the 2 Fillmores, Myrtle and Charles, speaking, as they did those many years ago. There's a recording of Eric Butterworth, who many of you know the book, Discover the Power Within You. And so he's been doing a lot of work and getting volunteers to help record. Many of these are in manuscript, handwritten forms in archives at Unity Village. So Mark, we thank you very much. And you're very much a part of this lesson today, Let There Be Peace on Earth, because I resorted to a lot of information from truthunity.net. We also have Reverend Donna Johnson here. She's always here. She's CEO of Unity Worldwide Ministries, and she is who ordained me and ordained Warren, and she'll soon be ordaining David. And so thank you for being here. And I know this is your church home anyway, so it's always good to see you at home. So Advent is about faith, peace, love, and joy. The 4 Sundays immediately after Thanksgiving leading up to Christmas Eve. So every Sunday morning, every service, we have a family come up and light the Advent candle for that particular day in our consciousness. Today is peace. It's just not a coincidence that Millie's saying, "Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me." Because unlike the woman who had the lamp and rubbed it and thought she could ask for world peace, peace doesn't start from the outside. We create peace from the inside. To rebirth our faith, our love, and our joy requires us to find that consciousness of peace. That's the foundation of everything. Peace is important to realize the divine presence within. So how can we focus on peace in the midst of all the turmoil that's going on right here in our community, throughout our country, throughout the world? We have child abuse, social unrest, poverty, starvation, hatred, bigotry. There can be peace on earth, but just as we sing the song, it's not out there, it's in here. So let me give you a little backstory. I always like, music is always the message. I hear music whenever I think of speaking, or someone asks me a question, I get songs, and I don't always say it because you'll think I'm crazy, but a song will pop in my mind in a conversation between you and me. I'll just think of a song that relates. So when Duke asked me to speak, and he said his title was about peace, the Advent Sunday. Peace. What better title than fits our song and the very beginning of our service, with Duke's inspiration, in which he wrote the peace prayer. On this day, I dedicate myself to peace on earth. You see, because peace starts from within. So Jill Jackson and Cy Miller, who became Jill and Cy Miller, the duet songwriting team, were popular in the 50s and 60s for their folk music, like many of the folk music writers of those days, who wrote songs that touched our hearts, you know, like Woody Guthrie, "This land is your land, this land is my land." So Jill and Cy wrote this song. Now, Jill wrote the words to the song. Her story goes before this. In 1944, Jill tried to commit suicide, and she was not successful. And she realized in the darkest night of her soul that there is a God that's bigger than any problem that we might have. She realized that she had a purpose for being in this world right now. And that should she end her life, she would not be able to fulfill her purpose, which certainly had to do with all of the people who would enjoy her work, specifically this song. So she and Cy married in 1949, and the two of them put this song to music. It was just a poem when she wrote it. In 1955, shortly after writing the song, she and Cy led a retreat with a group of 100 teenagers from various religious, ethnic, and social-economic backgrounds from high schools all over the country. The retreat was held in the mountains in California, and the young people were guided to sing this song. They locked arms, and they sang, "Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me." It was an experiment that Jill and Cy decided to try with these young people to create understanding and friendship through education. It started as a discussion group over a weekend retreat with these kids, living and working together in a camp environment from different backgrounds, cultures. And at the end of the retreat, The children were so mesmerized and inspired by this song that they took it home to their schools and their families and their communities. And it began to catch on. It soon spread to all 50 states and around the world. It became a theme for Veterans Day, Human Rights Day, United Nations Day, the 4-H clubs, United Auto Workers, American Legion, the B'nai B'rith Society, Kiwanis Clubs, the Congress on Racial Equality. It was recorded and copied and printed in songbooks. It was passed by word of mouth. It was sung in other countries and languages by professional artists like Tennessee Ernie Ford and Nat King Cole and Gladys Knight, Pat Boone, the Boston Pops, and many others. It received the George Washington Honor Medal by the Freedoms Foundation at Valley Forge for outstanding achievement in helping bring about a better understanding of the American way. It received a Brotherhood Award from the National Conference of Christians and Jews, and in 2009, it was published in a children's book by its title. Last year, by the way, I dusted off my talk from last year and I spoke on this same Advent Sunday. And I mentioned that there was a television commercial, in fact, 2 of them, one on Glade and one on Microsoft, where they were singing the peace song. The song continues to travel. We experience it every Sunday. It's the highlight of the service for me. When we all hold hands and sing together and then raise our hands. Let it begin with me. With God as creator, family all are we. With God as creator, one God, one power, one presence, everywhere for all of us, then we're all family. That's what the song says. Mother Teresa said, if we have no peace, it's because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. Think about that for a minute. If we have no peace, it's because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. So how does this peace begin with me? Dr. Garland Landreth, who you'll meet, and 3,999 other meditators in 1993 did an experiment similar to what Jill and Cy Miller did with the peace song. Only their experiment was in Washington, D.C. for 6 weeks. All they did was meditate. All they did was be for several hours a day. Now, their intention was not to change anything, but their intention was to see what happens when collective consciousness working together to bring about some good. What happens when that occurs? And what happened was nothing short of a miracle. The crime rate in Washington, D.C., which had been relatively high, like many major cities around the country, was reduced 23% during the period that these 4,000 meditators sat in the silence. So I wonder, when we say, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me, what role can we play, individually and collectively, in bringing about peace? When we see something that we don't like, how do we create peace on earth, goodwill to all? Peace starts from the inside. There's a story that was once told about a war. And 2 armies came together in battle. They fought from the time the sun came up in the east until it set in the west. When the day was ending, only 2 warriors, one from each side, emerged. They were surrounded by the bodies and gore of all the killing that had taken place. They were too tired to fight each other, so they took off their helmets, they unstrapped their shields, and sheathed their swords. And they lay down among their fallen comrades, only a few feet apart from each other. They were so tired from battle that they couldn't fall asleep. It was a kind of weariness that comes from when we hold on to hate and bitterness and resentment. Finally, one of them turned and spoke to the other. I have a son at home in my village, and he plays with a wooden sword. Someday he wants to grow up and be just like me. The other one just listened for a while and then finally broke the silence and said, I have a daughter at home in my village, and when I look into her eyes, I see the youth of my wife. The two men started to tell each other their stories of their families, their villages, their neighbors, the old stories they learned at the grandparents' knees when they were young. All night long, they just told their stories till the sun started to creep from the east. And slowly they stood. They put their helmets back on. They buckled on their shields, and they drew their swords back to finish the battle. And then something happened. They looked deeply into each other's eyes and slowly sheathed their swords and walked away, each to his own home. They started as enemies, but they parted as friends. The moral to the story is you can't hate someone when you know their story. The story is a demonstration of the peace song. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Albert Einstein said, peace cannot be kept by force, it can only be achieved by understanding. And Jesus said in the book of John, the 14th chapter, the 27th verse, my peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give you peace. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid. What does this mean? Not as the world gives. Oh yeah, there's turmoil. There'll be wars and rumors of wars until the end of time. There's always a conflict somewhere. But the peace I have comes from inside me. I can have peace in the midst of a storm. And in my personal life, I have had peace in the midst of many storms. I'm sure I speak for all of you here too. And you may be going through a storm right now in your life. But there's a way to find that perfect place of peace just by being still and knowing that there is only one presence and one power active in your life and in the universe. God the good, omnipotent, and all things work together for good. All things. What is this here to teach me is one of my go-to phrases when I'm going through a storm. And usually, in a little while, I find out that it was a great lesson. So it's good. We can remain calm when we find that still place of peace in the midst of any kind of circumstances. Jimi Hendrix said, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. It starts with us. So let's make that personal. When my power of love overcomes my love of power, I will create peace, and that peace will emanate through the world. So in the Christmas story, we read of the angels who came and said, there will be a sign. You'll find the baby wrapped in swaddling clothes and lying in a manger. And in the end, the angel said, and there will be peace on earth, goodwill to all. In Luke 2:14, glory to God in the highest, and on earth, peace, goodwill to all. So how practical is it for us to go deep within and find that perfect place of peace? In a moment, you'll get to experience Dr. Garland Landreth as he walks us through the process of being still and allowing the peace that passes all understanding to flow in and through us so that we can let peace be on earth and begin with ourselves. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. So I invite you now to get comfortable, to relax, and to invite that spirit of peace to enfold your being with every breath you take.